Hello. Hello. Yeah. Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm not trying to. I actually believe in about 95% of everything you talk. I appreciate your education, everything you express. Whatever you want. I just had a question about the military patriotism, man. Because like I'm totally on the same page with you, man. Like I love my country, and then like I love my neighbors. I love, uh, you know what I mean. But I have no connection to the flag, right? I have no connection to these borders or anything like that. And I'm not gonna slow any of this down with the history of our country, obviously, right? So I only reason I say this because I see one of the biggest criticisms people have of you online is they you're a Nazi and shit, and I totally disagree. I just completely I get the parallels for people that don't know you. You see what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to maybe I want your thoughts, right? I guess because
Yeah. So the flag. I'm gonna break it down. The flag thing is a cultural thing, right? So we could push that in the back, but I would insist upon something. Borders are based in material reality. They are not arbitrary. Borders are based in determinate recognition between sovereign states, and their lines you do not cross. They're mutually recognized internationally borders, right? Which means they function materially. They have a material reality. It doesn't matter what you think about borders. Even if you, for example, believe in the complete elimination of all borders, you cannot speak for the people of Canada and Mexico and other places, right? They're still going to have a border, whether you like it or not. If you believe in no borders, and you want to impose this upon them, you're effectively an American chauvinist because you're imposing an ideology that you contrived in America as an American upon a Mexican, right? So this is how borders and territories are actually material realities. It doesn't matter what your ideology is. The difference is actually materially real, formally.
Okay. I'm kind of a dumbass, so I think I get that right.
It's like we are Americans. There's a difference between Americans and Mexicans, right? Mexicans say we have our own country, we have our own state. Americans say the same thing. If Americans decided to say we don't have our own country, we don't have our own state, we can't impose that on Mexicans because they live in a different country, right? They're coming from a different place.
I get that. I guess all that though is the borders and everything. And again, because I hate that we stole this land argument because it's a stupid argument. But I mean, so for example, during the revolution, the black people, the black working class, to get them on our side, for example, with the 1776 argument, most people, 1772 is what Sutherland, the crown, right, banned slavery in everywhere except the colonies because of Sutherland or whatever it was, the guy's name was, right? And so a lot of the colonies saw the writing on the wall. Like, for example, we know the people that win the wars write the history books, right? There were 13 colonies, right? And they all didn't go to war with Britain over the fucking tea, right? It was other things. The crown didn't want Western expansion, right? And a lot of it, some of it in the South probably had to do with slavery. They saw the writing on the wall because of the Sutherland Act, right? So going with this 1776 and to a lot of people that they see that as a war flag, even to this day. You know what I mean? So and I serve too, man. And I've seen the shit we do overseas. You know what I mean? And that's one of the reasons that turned me off to capitalism, because I've been front row and center for the I've been in the belly of the beast. I hate it's fucking bullshit. I've seen what it does, and so.
Yeah. So anyway, So here's the thing, right? The 1772 case of Somerset is widely. Sorry? Yeah, it's widely being used by the proponents of the 1619 project, who are trying to push this idea that the English were about to abolish slavery in the colonies. But the law actually just stated that slaves that were on British soil could not be brought back to the Americas. And if you look at what actually happened after 1776, the Somerset Acts was actually used as the premise of laws within the 13 colonies in the North in order to lead to the complete erasure and abolition of slavery. Somerset continued to serve as the foundation for abolitionist interpretations of the Constitution after 1776. So there's nothing about it that, like, it's the American Revolution couldn't possibly have been a reaction to that. At least it couldn't significantly have been, because it was fully consecrated even after the revolution. It wasn't reversed or abolished.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I mean, the other part too, right? What the crown offered freedom to slaves that fought against the colonists, right, as well.
That was a cynical ploy by the British to deceive. Yeah, it was a cynical ploy. They didn't care about. And the only evidence we need to know about the nature of the British Empire is during the... Sorry, is my mic working?
I can hear you fine. I don't know if they can on the stream.
Hello? Okay, let me see. I don't know what the fuck happened. Okay, here we go. Yeah. The only evidence we really need for that is the fact that the British industrialization was carried on the back of Southern slavery, and the Confederacy and the British Empire would become geopolitical, cultural, and strategic allies, right? It's almost like slavery in the South came to represent the last representation of the British Empire, right? And Lincoln represented the final triumph of America over the British Empire. At least, and this was the eyes of the British press. They demonized Lincoln as like an anti-liberal, and he's betraying the fundamental Anglo-Saxon, principles of liberalism, and he's a tyrant and all this kind of stuff, right? So I think it's more ambiguous. Now, as far as winning over black working class people, I think there's an issue of a need for black national self-determination. And that means we can't confuse the way black people understand their own history and in this country with the way that people who are committed to the United States do, right? I don't just mean white people. I mean anyone who is so concerned, who believes in the United States and believes in being a part of the United States, which I don't think black people have any obligation to. The United States hasn't, it has excluded black people since the founding, right? So,
to say the least, yeah.
So I think if we want to convince the black population of the United States that the U.S. is something worth being a part of and fighting for, the job is on us to prove that to them. So we can't expect different types of people who have been victims of the United States to be so eager to join the project. But we do have a common enemy in the current political establishment, which is also stifling the ability for there to be black self-determination, which is something I do fundamentally believe in.
I mean, yeah, anything that's progress in the word of, by definition of progress in this. I hate all the liberalism and all those terms because people, they use them. They don't use them in the right. They don't, you know what I mean? They use them to make a point and as like insults, and half the time they don't know what the fuck everything's a fascist. Like, the lady didn't bring your fucking chips, she's a fascist. Like, it's fucking stupid. So I heard you. I watched the other night. You were with that fucking extreme racist, blonde kid, Rook or whatever. The guy's
Hake or whatever.
And so he kept bringing up this in regards to like the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and you would say you're from Lebanon, right? But he would say, well, it wasn't y'all, it wasn't us, or it wasn't, that wasn't us that did this, and even like people in first off, I appreciate your patience with him because how do you like, what is your argument to something that's
the reason I'm so confident about what makes me so confident about being an American, and I don't mean to be vulgar here, but America is one of the only places where everybody's circumcised, right? When you're born, they take a little piece of you, and that means you're an American, basically, right? It's just an analogy, right? that's how it works for your soul too, right? When you're born in America and you're born in this country restructures how you relate to your reality, how you think about reality, how you live. It doesn't matter what cultural background you come from. This country takes a piece of you, right? And to me, there's something about me, despite my cultural background and not having ancestors who are from here, that is fundamentally American, right? So
that's what we're all immigrants essentially, right? Even
exactly. It's like, to me, it's almost like America's a curse, but I also have this curse too, right? There's something about it that I also share. America's like it's a common existential crisis we have. And my view has only been that I just think the people who are trying to erase America, it's not that I'm like saying, oh, please don't erase America. I'm just saying, I think it's a cope. I think you're not confronting our crisis and you're trying to cop out of it. I think we have to face, as Americans, like, we have to face what America is. We have to face its reality. We have to face why it is America came to be. What is really great about America? Why has it survived for so long? Why did it become one of the preeminent power of the world? It's not just because of imperialism. There were also many other imperialist powers. We have to give credit to the fact there is something world historically significant about America, right? And that's just
personally, and this is something that I feel like that our schools and media are willfully ignorant to most of the public, is the petrodollar and the arrangement with Saudi Arabia, the arrangement we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how that, like, we're in the middle of the Cold War and it's this big arms race, and then all of a sudden Nixon makes this deal where they can basically print money, and now all of a sudden, oh, where the fucking capitalism wins? Like,
yeah, as Varoufakis said, it's almost like we're not even living in capitalism, because in capitalism, profit is what drives the economy, whereas what's driven our economy since 2008 is just printing money.
Yeah, exactly. Well, once they figured out the hack, basically, I guess.
Yeah, it's not even like people aren't even making profit normally anymore. They're just printing money and injecting that into the economy.
Yeah, and they're just outprinting the money. They're just outprinting inflation. They're just trying to basically stay in front of it at this point. And
yeah, it's like they print money and they just hope the real economy will catch up.
And they just keep kicking the can down the road. Yeah, and I mean, domestically, it's a fucking Ponzi scheme, the dollars, right? And then, internationally, that's why we have, like Iraq, Syria, Libya, it was going to be Venezuela. These are all countries that got off the petrodollar. They went to the euro or these other, and we're the world trade currency, and it's no coincidence we have 800 bases all over, and like you bring this up to people, like it's the most obvious connection with everything, with all our foreign policy, and that's what got, once I figured that out, that's what sort of just started making me scratch my head, and I was like, wait, and then just sort of connecting the dots, and I just got really fucking curious, and yeah, man, it's almost aggravating trying to talking to people, and it's just all over the place, man.
Yeah,
I don't really have. Go ahead, man.
Oh no, keep going.
I mean, I don't really have much else, man. I'm not really trying to get into a big debate, man. I just wanted to just pick your brain on that.
I just think a lot of people think that, oh, what is America? America is just this white supremacist project, and I'm not denying white supremacy's relation to America. I mean, that's very much obvious, but I think there's more to America than that. I think America represents pragmatism. It represents this, in contrast to Europe, it represents this new way of relating to reality, where we don't make assumptions about reality. We just focus and care about things that work, instead of, they don't necessarily have to be meaningful or have to be loaded with intention or whatever. They just have to work. They just have to somehow function or be there. I think this American mentality is something that all modern countries came to presuppose. The Soviet Union, China, they all adopted this thing that seems to have originated from America, this specific form of modernity, right? And now they also rediscovered their own particular civilizations after. But my view has always been that embracing American patriotism is going to give us a platform to also rediscover the unique, cultures and civilizations of the Americas, whether they're indigenous or whether they're, Hispanic, like related to Mexico in our Southwest, or whether they're French or wherever. There's so much different cultures and localities within the United States. I just think I don't think America is its own culture necessarily. I think it's a platform
Yeah.
to discover specific cultures and realities, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. And I mean, the essence of what America was basically after World War II, like that's where all the growth and anything that you know what I mean? And we got Alaska and Hawaii and
yeah, a lot of people really take
that we are.
a lot of people take for granted how, for example, in the Soviet Union, they were considered very much American. How do I put it? Amerophile. I don't know what you call it, but foreigners would remark, "Why are you so obsessed with everything American? Why do you idolize Henry Ford? What it is about America that you consider so worthy of like admiration and so on and so on." And
well, it's like that way in Iran now, right? Even the youth in Iran are.
that's just the cultural thing. And in the Soviet Union at the time in the 30s, they would basically respond. They would say, in contrast to these arrogant Europeans, we just like the frankness of Americans. We like their pragmatic, practical attitude where they just like to get to the root of things, get to the bottom of things, and they don't like to waste time and be arrogant and so on and so on. Like, there's something there that I think isn't reducible to white supremacy or this kind of racism or whatever.
No, I'm 100% with you. But there's all this a whole group of people that realize that they're 3/5 of a person when that arrangement was made. You know what I'm saying? And so getting past that hurdle with a lot of people, and especially with everything else, and then it's just.
I think that I don't think America is in essence racist. I think racism is something that it represents the way America struggles with itself and struggles with its origins in the British Empire. The truth is, and this is why Jefferson would say things like, "The American experiment will truly prove its merit when we have a Muslim president." And he was joking when he said that. It was so outlandish to say that, but he was talking to the Tunisians, or sorry, was it the Tunisians or the Libyans at the time? It was like, it was a diplomatic mission. He was basically like, oh yeah, like basically he was trying to say our ideal, our vision is to have a country that does not recognize distinctions in, background or religion or ethnicity. It's just this state, which is the bare minimum of a state, a commonwealth of some kind, a republic that is by, for, and of the people, and which is totally indifferent to our specific backgrounds and realities. Now, where white supremacy figures in is when this indifference is turned into like a exterminationist rejection, when it's not only indifferent to our particular backgrounds, but it rejects our particular backgrounds, right? That's where I think white supremacy and like white purity comes in, where they just want to have this culture of absolute purity that's not contaminated by specific substantive cultural or national or ethnic realities. But I don't think that has to be the consequence of America. America doesn't have to be white supremacist. We can still preserve this specific American indifference to any one specific nationality, while at the same time respecting those realities, if that makes sense. We're not going to inscribe them into the foundation of our state, but we can still respect them and still even acknowledge them in some kind of way.
Well, yeah, and then I mean
we don't have to make a state founded on the basis of nationality or ethnicity or religion, but we can still be a state that respects those things. Is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I don't disagree with that at all, and I just feel like some of the the things that we've grown accustomed to are like we've been sold a lot of goods, for especially like poor people in this country, and it just sort of flows over into minorities because the way the system works. Like, one of my favorite is the 13th Amendment, right? Like, they repealed slavery, but kind of not really, because if you're in trouble, they can just, You know what I mean? And then now you have these for-profit prisons that you have sheriff's departments that have quotas. They have to fill seats like it's a fucking movie theater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, I'm not like some one-sided American caricature. I do recognize there's a fundamental evil to this country, and especially
I wasn't trying to insult your intelligence and think you didn't. I know you all already know that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is a brutal, evil country also, which kills and stifles people's humanity and annihilates people's humanity in the name of this false sense of stoic indifference and a sense of, substanceless, abstract justice. I completely understand that, and I get that. This is a country that's built in a way indifferent to our humanity, right? But I just don't think it's one-sided. At the same time you have this hideous evil, you also at the same time cannot overcome this evil by trying to just ignore it or wipe it away in favor of like completely discarding. There's something about America that's true, if that makes sense. There's something even about this evil that's true, and if we don't acknowledge its rational kernel, so to speak, we cannot really cure the disease of Americanism itself. We can just try to attack and target the symptoms, but we're not going to be able to deal with the disease.
I mean, I agree, and 100%. It's just that with the wealth inequality and everything, there's so many layers, and we're just indoctrinated into this system of a lie. I mean, from like, you're 4 or 5 years old when you go to kindergarten, right? And it's all the way through public schools, you know what I mean? And then you get the college debt, and you're chasing this thing your entire life, $100,000 or whatever. It's they've got so many people just by the balls, and they don't even realize it. Anyways, I just like to know your thoughts, man, because when people see your clips of yelling at people and like, it sucks because I see the passion, but then when I see people like, oh, he's a fucking fascist, I'm like, yeah, it's fucking hard to win people over like that, man. Anyways, that's it, man.
Yep. All right. See you later.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Bye. All right.